Welcome to episode 7 of SciTech Long Island. Today we have a very special guest with us, Jennifer George, the granddaughter of Mr. Rube Goldberg, artist, inventor, and so much more. We will be getting some personal insights into Rube Goldberg, and then we will meet the winning team from Calhoun High School who won first place recently in the Cradle of Aviation Rube Goldberg competition. Then we will meet Al Martinez, an engineer involved with the Lower Hudson Engineering Expo on April 3rd. Finally, we will meet Renee McDermott, a Long Island teacher from Wantagh Schools who has participated many times in the Rube Goldberg competition. So stay tuned, you're in for a great show.
I want to introduce you to Orion, NASA's newest spacecraft. Men and women dedicated to human spaceflight have been developing and testing Orion, putting it through its paces from the ground up, in the air, and even in the water. It's all leading up to the biggest test of all, in space. Exploration Flight Test 1 will send an unmanned Orion spacecraft 3,600 miles from Earth, faster than a speeding bullet. Orion will re-enter the Earth's atmosphere at 20,000 miles per hour, experiencing temperatures up to 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It will be the first big step as we begin new journeys into our solar system. Find out more about Orion at this NASA website. Orion, I'm on board.
Hi, welcome to SciTech Long Island. My name is Yair, and this is Ella, and we're here with Jennifer George, the granddaughter of Rube Goldberg.
So, Ms. George, many kids our age today do not know who Rube Goldberg was and how he contributed to society. So can you give us some background on Rube?
Well, he was actually a cartoonist, cartooning a long time ago, like over 100 years ago, and he was sort of he was one of the founding fathers of the Cartoon Society back in the day. And cartoonists back in the day, they were kind of the rock stars of their generation. And it was sort of magical when they became syndicated and suddenly a drawing, you know, imagine in 1910, 1912, when a drawing that was made in New York City was suddenly available in a newspaper in Kansas City. Yeah. That was magic. And he became known for, among many other things, but obviously his prolific amount of cartoons. It's estimated that he did 50,000 in his lifetime, which is a lot of cartoons. But he became best known for his wacky inventions. And we have one sitting over there, and that's a simple way to sharpen ice skates. And you can see it's anything but simple. And his contraptions sort of captured the imagination of not just kids, but grown-ups. And he became a household name. And before he turned 50, he was included in the dictionary. So his name is actually an adjective. So it's an overly complicated and humorous way of completing a simple task. So that's sort of him in a nutshell.
Thank you.
We have here a book and a calendar that you made about your grandfather's inventions. Can you please tell us a little bit about them?
Well, when, I really knew my grandfather the way maybe you guys know your grandfathers. I didn't pay much attention to the work he had done or the fact that he was this celebrated person. Growing up, we did fun things together, like we would draw together, or we would make paper balloons, origami type stuff, or I'd watch him eat his favorite dessert, which was whipped cream. He could just eat bowls of whipped cream at a time, and I would join in. But when my father, who really took over running a bunch of the businesses that emanated from my grandfather's work, he had agreed to do a book with Abrams, and unfortunately he was sick and he died before he could even get started on it. And the editor from Abrams, Charlie Kochman, asked me to take over. Take over sort of where my dad never left off. And it took 7 years to put the book together. So I had to do a lot of heavy lifting and research on my grandfather and get to know him in a completely different way. And it really was eye-opening. And while I had never had any intention of taking over the mantle of all this, it seems to me it was sort of left on my lap. And now I'm really thrilled. I get to kind of be involved in the whole world of Rube and what's going on with competitions and other aspects of businesses that are emanating from his work.
That's great. So speaking of the competition, how did it start and what's it all about?
Well, the competition, the irony is that, Rube never built these contraptions. They worked in principle because he was an engineer by trade. He went to UC Berkeley. He graduated in 1904. He was given an assignment as an engineer, the whole class was, to build a machine that could weigh the world. Not a mathematical equation, but an actual machine, like a scale. And after several months of attempting to build this scale, my grandfather all he could see was the humor in it. Like, A, this could never happen. B, who cares what the world weighs? And what are you going to do with that information anyway? So he would attribute that particular assignment to setting him on the course to draw these crazy machines. So the competition started actually with two rival fraternities at Purdue University in the 1950s. And I guess when those kids graduated, I think the competition lasted like 4 years because they were, fiercely competitive. And then in the 80s, this giant crazy trophy was unearthed at, I think, Theta Tau. And they couldn't figure out what it was a trophy for, and it seems it was a trophy for the Rube Goldberg Machine Contest. And that's how they began again. So it started with college. My father decided that it was really appropriate for us to, or for him to start, an organization so that it could be, the competitions could be housed, organized, run appropriately. And it grew to include many colleges, many competitive teams. And then it grew to high school, and now we have an online international middle school competition. And this year, for the first time ever, we have a grammar school, grade school competition. Last year, we had over 260 teams worldwide competing. This year, we are over 500. So we are growing at a clip, and the competition, there's always an annual task. This year's task is to open an umbrella. And how you interpret it, we always leave the assignment, it was super simple, the task. It should never be too instructive because we want to leave the creativity up to the students who are building these machines. So we don't know what next year's task is. We will be announcing it at finals, which take place in April.
And do you have a favorite one of his inventions?
I love the wearables. Typically, those are contraptions like this one, the self-wiping napkin, which it harnesses onto the body. And I think I probably appreciate those the most because my background is in fashion design. I also love this one. This is a simple way for taking your own picture, or as my daughter calls it, the first selfie. And we are actually in talks to actually make this machine life-size for a particular place. I can't mention where it will be yet, but we're in discussions.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Ms. George, for joining us today. Thank you all for watching. We'll be right back after this break.
Hi, I'm Seth Green. When it comes to long-distance travel, NASA's got everyone beat. They're driving a rover on Mars, crisscrossing Saturn's moons, and are now exploring interstellar space. That's 12 billion miles away. But you don't have to go to space to see NASA in motion. In fact, no matter how you choose to get around here on Earth, you're probably using NASA technology. Ever see those turned-up tips on airplane wings? They're called winglets, and they came out of NASA research to reduce drag. Winglets save us billions in fuel costs and lower our carbon footprint. NASA technology can be found in your car, too. Discoveries made while observing astronauts in space have led to seat designs that keep you more comfortable on long drives. And advanced materials created by NASA have improved everything from brake pads to engine oil. In the air, on the road, there's more space in your life than you think. To learn more, visit us at www.nasa.gov.
Welcome back. I'm here with my co-host, Emily. And now let's meet this year's winning team of the Rube Goldberg competition. This is James, Joy, and Amelia from Calhoun High School. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so let's start. What inspired you guys to join the Rube Goldberg competition?
Well, last year we were in an Introduction to Research class at Calhoun, and we had to compete in a competition, and there was many for us to choose from. And most were only just write an essay about something, but we wanted to do something more hands-on because we're very ambitious. And we saw the Rube Goldberg competition and thought it'd be great because we were into engineering and we wanted to be able to build something, and it was really nice.
So this is when you guys were freshmen?
Yeah.
And what was your project as freshmen?
Last year, the task for the Rube Goldberg competition was to erase a chalkboard, so we decided to go with a school theme. So our machine was a miniature classroom setup, and yeah.
So how did that turn out?
Well, it turned out pretty well. We had a lot of fun building it, and at the competition we had a few perfect runs, but we didn't place last year. But after the competition, Ms. George came around and she talked to each team and gave them some advice about how to do better next year. And she told us that we had a lot on the machine, but we really need to focus on the whimsicality and the funniness, because that's what Rube Goldberg is all about.
Yeah, I understand that. So, how did you guys come up with the Mary Poppins theme? It's very creative, but I just want to know how.
Well, in our freshman year, the drama program at our school did Mary Poppins as a musical, and when we heard about the theme being to open an umbrella, I automatically thought, you know, Mary Poppins and her umbrella, and Mary Poppins is just such a funny and, you know, creative musical, and it ties perfectly with Rube Goldberg and the whole theme of it.
I love the costume.
Yeah.
So what was the process of building your machine?
It was a long process.
Yeah.
I think first we had to basically buy the materials and build the foundation, which took many hours. We had to build the floor and the walls and attach them. And then we started to paint and thought of our steps.
Yeah.
And then we started to attach the steps and just getting everything to look good and to work. And we had to test run it because we didn't want it to mess up during the competition. So it definitely took a long time, but it was well worth it in the end.
And this was all in her basement.
Yeah, everything in my basement.
Was it very time consuming? How was it?
Oh yeah, it was really time consuming.
Well, we did this through our program ASR, Advanced Science Research at Calhoun, and we have to have a certain amount of hours outside of school, and we spent many of those working on Rube Goldberg. I mean, it was so many hours, but it was definitely worth it in the end. It was so much fun to build it.
Do you have a range of time? How long it took you to build?
I'd say at least 50 hours.
And then we weren't all there at the same time too, since we're all such busy people. So we kind of had to, like, 2 people would be here, just 1 person. It was difficult. It was difficult building, but it was worth it in the end. Yeah.
But as sophomores, you guys came in first place. How did you guys, like, you went from not even being placed and you won the competition?
Yeah, well, we really weren't expecting to get first place because
great
last year we were freshmen and it was only 3 of us, and some groups had 12 seniors in it. So we were expecting that this year, and there were a lot of big teams, but we really brought the the funniness and the theming along, and that definitely helped us to win.
Yeah, I think we learned a lot from last year, because last year was the first year our school participated in the Rube Goldberg competition, so we didn't know much about the competition at that time. So when we actually went in and got to see everyone else's projects and see what they looked like and the ideas that they used, I think we tried to incorporate as much of that as possible into ours.
And that definitely paid off, because other kids at our school, they found out about it and they saw it and they're really interested in it. So now we have a lot more people interested in Rube Goldberg.
Yeah, it's really good.
We're trying to encourage more people to do it too, because it's a great project and it's really fun to do.
It seems very fun.
So
from here, where are you going from here? What's the next step in the competition?
We are currently trying to go to Wisconsin for the National Rube Goldberg Tournament, since we won the one here. And we are trying to get funds so that we could get there and get the machine there. And James has our GoFundMe link.
Yeah, we have a GoFundMe online, and it's GoFundMe/Rube Goldberg CHS. And we're trying to raise money so that we can go to nationals in Wisconsin and compete with other machines and teams from across the
nation.
Whole,
How are you guys expecting to do in Wisconsin?
Well, we're not really sure, because we weren't even expecting to win at the regional competition. But I guess we're just going to go there and give it our all and just really see what happens. But even if we don't place it, that doesn't really matter, because
even if we go there, we get to see everyone else, the best machines across the country. We get to see all of their ideas.
Just that in itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Even the machines that didn't place at the regional competition were amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
We can definitely learn from everyone else's
And
machines.
it's cool to actually do a project where you build something and you can see it at the end. And
It's
see,
so
like,
interactive,
I did that.
so it's
You meet new
amazing.
people.
Yeah, you definitely meet new people.
So did you guys start planning? Do you know what you're doing?
We've tried a little bit. It's in April. We're currently trying to figure out how to get the machine there and whether we're flying or driving, because it's far. and we're not sure what we're doing yet.
We also had a few issues with the machine at the regional competition, and we're going to really perfect those for the national competition.
We also want to try to incorporate more like creative steps and just make it better overall.
Yeah. Would you recommend this competition to other students?
Definitely. Yeah. Out of all the competitions we could have done, this is definitely the best. It was so much fun, and it was the most hands-on work, and it definitely paid off like immensely. Like, although it was a lot of work and it was a lot of hard work, it really was. It was. I couldn't have imagined a better outcome, even if we didn't place. You know.
Yeah. It was just the process itself is so much fun.
I think a lot of people would enjoy it because it's a fun thing to do, and you get to build something, and it makes you work with other people, and it's a nice experience.
The feeling when you like see the perfect run at the end, oh my god, that's the best feeling. It's like everything comes together and it's amazing.
Do you think that it's open to everyone to do, or you think that you need some past knowledge about engineering?
I don't think we really need any knowledge because last year when we were freshmen, our school had never done it, so we were kind of going in blind and we didn't really know what to do. And we just kind of got together and thought up ideas and just kept working until we had a working, viable project.
Well, anyways, you learn from your mistakes. So.
Good path from there. We hope to improve and come back next year and definitely do it again.
Yeah, of course.
We're going to do this throughout high school and maybe even into college, because the great thing about it is you can enter middle school, high school, and college. So really any age. If you're interested, you can enter in the competition.
As long as you're dedicated and like creative, and anyone can do this. Really,
So what's your team name?
Our team name is a spoonful of sugar, because just like Mary Poppins, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
That's cute. All right, well, thanks so much for joining us. So let's take a look at a spoonful of sugar in action.
Here's Mary, Michael and Jane's Natty, and a fellow chimney sweep of mine. Now, our story begins on a very special day, with George and Winifred at work, and the children at the park playing. We could see the house just as they left it. So, the kids were getting tired of their mean Natty, Miss Andrews, so they wrote an advertisement to get a new Natty, and luckily Mary Poppins saw that advertisement and came to see them. She didn't even get a chance to unpack her bags yet, she just got here. And she even brought along a spoonful of sugar with her, so you can help get that nasty brimstone and trickle down. It's hard to get down your throat. Miss Andrews brought that horrible medicine. And
So our machine begins in the clear blue skies with a ball that will roll down the clouds and hitting into a battering ram. The battering ram will then hit into a ball, which will go down the chimney and onto the roof, where I like to spend most of my time sweeping and dancing with a bird. Hitting the stick, it will release Jane and Michael's favorite kite into a ball, which will hit into broom sweep reaction, just like the ones I used to clean machines. The broom sweep will then hit the ball into a cup, which will release Michael's favorite toy car into a ball. This ball will then roll down a course in the skies and hit into another ball. This other ball will now go into the bird's nest, down the tree, hit into Jenga blocks, hit into a larger ball, which will then trigger, which will hit a lever, which will trigger Michael's favorite car into another ball. This ball will roll around the tree and into Jane's favorite marble, which will go into the children's toy chest.
The ball will then continue rolling into the pendulum from the clock, the grandfather clock. It'll hit into a ball and turn the corner and roll down this tube. It'll hit the lever, causing the larger ball to roll, releasing a paper that unveils my favorite word, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. After that, the ball will continue rolling into this bucket, causing the wood to tilt down and the water to come out of the water bottle and into the gutter. It'll roll down the gutter and into this bucket, which will pull up on the center of the umbrella, opening the umbrella so that I can fly away to the park and show the kids how practically perfect this perfect machine is. Are we ready?
Here it goes. There you go. Look at the umbrella opening. Very clever. I like this one.
I like it.
Oop. Put that down. I like that.
Welcome back. I'm here with my co-host Yair and our two special guests, Al Martinez and Renee McDermott. So, Mr. Martinez, can you tell us about the expo?
The expo happens every year during the springtime. It's to promote engineering to students in high school and middle school. Over 20 colleges come, local businesses, and we always have activities for the middle school and high school kids.
So how did you get involved with the expo?
I'm currently working as a teacher, pre-engineering teacher at the high school. I was going to the expo, having a table there to promote my engineering program, and I think that was a logical step to volunteer for the expo.
Why are you paired with the Rube Goldberg competition?
That was the next logical step to attract more students. The Rube Goldberg contest was a big hit last year, and every year it gets bigger.
So who will be at the Engineering Expo?
Colleges, local businesses, high school students from various schools promoting the program. Also, there's many activities for elementary and middle schools. There's also the Rube Goldberg contest and robotics.
So how old were you, or when did you initially spark an interest in engineering?
I was always interested in taking apart things when I was young. The next logical step was to take engineering. At first, I went to a technical high school, so I did machining for 19 years, and the next step was teaching engineering at the high school level.
So, well, you are involved with many Rube Goldberg competitions in elementary, middle school, and high school. Can you please tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yes. I teach for the Wantagh School District, and I currently teach the gifted program, grades 3 through 6, and then I also teach high school science research. And part of what I was doing in the high school was to be an advisor for their Rube Goldberg Club. And so we have 4 teams. We've been doing it for 6 years. We first started with just 1 team for the first few years. Then it grew very quickly. The interest from the students grew very quickly. And we now have 4 teams that we send to the Cradle of Aviation in Garden City for the Rube Goldberg competition. And every year we do very well. And I saw the excitement from these high school students and thought, how can I facilitate this for the younger students? So in the gifted program in our 6th grade, we also now have 4 middle school teams. We do not participate in the in-person competition at the Cradle of Aviation. We actually do the online Rube Goldberg competition. So the students still put in many months of building, but then they also take photos of their machines, they take videos of their machines, and they put this all on a website, which is then submitted to the Rube Goldberg Company. And that's how we participate in the online competition. I also do sort of an informal Rube Goldberg in my elementary classrooms with my 3rd through 5th grade students. So we have our own little design challenges. I give them a few tasks that they have to perform, and then they work as a team to work through the design process. They do a lot of brainstorming together. And this, of course, is all after we study all about Rube Goldberg, because we want them to understand that he was a cartoonist who brought a lot of entertainment and humor into what he was doing. And so I try to see if I can encourage them, even at a very young age, to bring a fun, exciting element into their designs. And then we do a little informal competition in our elementary classrooms. So with all hopes that starting them very young will then lead to them having a great interest as they get older, and then having wonderful improvements even year to year in our high school machines that we build.
That's great. So what's your message to teachers?
Well, I think that teachers need to have a philosophy that even if it's something they're not necessarily comfortable with, that it's important to offer these opportunities to students. I'm not an engineer, and I never had in the past built my own Rube Goldberg machine, but it was important that I facilitate this along with, in the high school, we also have a science director who is a co-advisor with me. It was important that we facilitate this and offer this opportunity for the students. They didn't expect us to be experts, but they need us to give them the materials and the time to do this and to have a really fun collaborative project that they could do together.
What do you think the importance of the Rube Goldberg competition is to children?
It allows them to see from a very young age that it can be a very fun learning experience to tinker and build and design and then redesign, because it takes us months to do these big machines, and they start to realize that their original design that they sketched with their friends, the final machine never quite looks the same, because it doesn't ever work the way you necessarily want it to. Mm-hmm. So they have to understand that, not to give up on it, but that we redesign and we keep pushing through the design process until we finally get it to exactly how we want it to be.
So the whole ideology that Rube Goldberg had was to make a very simple event something so complicated. So how's your approach towards his idea of that?
Well, I try to teach my students that it's all about the planning process and sort of like never giving up on something kind of attitude. And that's how they can bring it back to applying to their life, in a sense, that it's the critical thinking skills involved that are the most important thing they can learn from Rube Goldberg. You know, they are always thinking, how can I make this happen? How can it lead to the next step? And so I think that's a really important life skill to have that they can take away from this, is that how can they always develop stronger critical thinking skills as they move forward with anything they do in their lives.
I always tell my kids every year that the class I teach an intro to engineering, that all we do is problem solving. And no matter if you're an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer, or you're always solving problems on your own. So going through the design process, even though you might fail at the end, you always learn from that process. You could always go back and try to reinvent it.
So that's about it. We have a PSA from the Engineering Expo, and thank you very much for your time.
Want to be an engineer? Dive right in.
Create things to make the world better.
Safer. Stronger.
And smarter. Engineering really is fun to be hands-on. It's not always boring sitting at a desk, you know.
I'm an engineer. I'm an engineer. Want to be one too?
Find out what it takes by coming to Engineering Expo Sunday, April 3rd. Visit beanengineer.org or our Facebook page to learn more.
Hi, I'm Matt Damon. I play astronaut Mark Watney in The Martian. In the story, my character is accidentally stranded on Mars. Sending people to Mars and returning them safely is the challenge of a generation. The whole world held its breath when the Curiosity rover landed in 2012. The boot prints of astronauts will follow those rover tracks, thanks to innovations happening today. NASA's journey to Mars begins on the International Space Station, some 250 miles overhead, where we're learning how humans can thrive over long periods without gravity. Future round trips to Mars could take 500 days or longer. This year, NASA launched the first one-year mission to the International Space Station to help prepare for those future journeys. Here at home, people are working across the country on the new Orion spacecraft and Space Launch System rocket that will carry astronauts farther than ever before. When we invent new technologies for exploration, it benefits all of humanity. But more than that, the journey to Mars will forever change our history books, rewriting what we know about the red planet and expanding a human presence deeper into the solar system. Follow NASA's journey to Mars at www.nasa.gov.
We hope you enjoyed today's show on Rube Goldberg and the amazing guests that joined us. Feel free to contact us at scitechlongisland@gmail.com with feedback or suggestions for future shows. Look for the upcoming Lower Hudson Valley Engineering Expo on their website. All Long Island teachers and students interested in engineering programs should try to attend. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on SciTech Long Island.